Hi, I'm Mitchell Dale and this is Rugby League Week's Good Friday Arvo Footy. I'm joined on the couch today by Martin Lenihan from Rugby League Week and Eric Groth from the Cronulla Sharks. Thanks for joining us, boys. Now, I've got a scoop from the Mole a little bit later on, but firstly, I want to talk about Jarryd Hayne. He's on fire.
Mate, he's playing instinctive football, and I always go back to 2009, not just because I was involved there, but Hainesy was on fire that year. Why? Because his team were playing good for him as well, and he had free rein to basically play instinctive footy. When there's a breakdown in play, he picks the ball up and he goes. He doesn't have to think too much. He's not organising everybody else now. He's just worried about himself, and it is paying dividends for the Eels.
I think what you've got to love about Parramatta at the moment is they're all playing that way. They're all playing off the cuff. It's instinctive. That's Chris Sandow's game. That's the way he loves to play. Brad Arthur's found the key. Unbelievable turnaround to lose by 50 to the Roosters and then come out and beat them. You know, they'll have people pouring through the gates there at Parramatta the rest of the year, and you've just got to love the style they're playing.
I think for a period of time there, people were giving the ball to Hainesy hoping he'd just come up with a miracle. It just doesn't work that way. No man on earth can play that kind of football and play good. So, mate, he's got free rein now, and, you know, with the halves taking the heat off him having to organise people, mate, happy days for the Hayne playing.
But he did come up with 3 miracles last week.
Yeah, there you go. And he's in a better headspace, so the miracles are more likely to happen when he has got less head noise. And he's doing this on the front cover of Rugby League Week. Maybe it's a sign.
It's all inside the Hayne brain. They used to play Hayne ball, really, Para. Now they're doing different things. They're all contributing a little bit. Brian Smith did some really good analysis, particularly of Jarrod's game so far this year. Just talking about doing the little things, being freed up to do them and just having more energy in attack overall.
Brian and I have similar brains, maybe, football brains?
Very similar.
Never doubted it. Thanks.
Anyway, we caught up with Brian this week. He elaborates a little bit more on Jarryd Hayne.
Like, Jarrod's always going to be a winner. He's going to play Origin. He's going to be on big money. He's going to probably win a Dally M or, you know, somewhere along the line. He's going to play for Australia. He's already done all that stuff. He's going to keep doing that. But I hope that what Jarrod's got ticking around there in his mind now is that he's not going to win a premiership, or more importantly, his teammates. He might go, you know, somewhere else in the future, go to a great club or, you know, and win a premiership. But he can actually win a premiership with his home club and with all those guys around him that, you know, adore him, and all those fans that adore him, and the coaches, etc., that are working with him. You know, he's got the capacity to be able to lift all those players. Like, you know, in the old days, people used to talk about Peter Sterling made blokes who were 7 out of 10 play 8, you know, or 5 out of 10 play like a 7 out of 10. That's Jarryd. He's got that capacity. And it's only just that stuff is only just coming out of him, I reckon.
Yeah, all very interesting. You can read the full analysis there from Brian on Jarryd, including why he says that Jarrod's game last weekend was as good as any he has seen from any player. Okay, from one player who's on fire to one who's gone off the boil a little bit in Billy Slater. Now, 2 weeks ago in Rugby League Week, we mentioned that we had a look at the contributor value ratings, which were devised by Des Hasler and some statisticians a few years ago to measure the impact and input of a player each week. Now, last year, Billy Slater was in the top 10 for the contributor value ratings. This year, as you can see on the screen behind us, he's dropped down to 98th. So that is a marked fall for Billy Slater.
It's a big slide, but I think it's a little bit unfair. I think his and Hainesy's case are almost mirror-like in regards to the situation they found themselves in over the last couple of years. Billy, the team isn't going so well. He can't just do everything by himself. And like we're talking about with Hainesy, mate, you can't just give him the ball and expect a miracle. When the Melbourne are playing good, Billy Slater is going to be playing awesome. So I think it's a very similar situation.
The other point is that he is playing a slightly different role. He's got a more of a ball playing role because they do have an inexperienced 5'8" there at Melbourne.
Come on, boys. I think you're being a bit generous to Billy Slater. For me, ever since he poshed that bloke in England, he's off his game. They are not playing well. That's a fair point. They were pretty ordinary the other night, got out of jail. He's dropping a lot more balls than you ever see. Their attack isn't as slick as we would expect. I think he's having a pretty poor season by standards, and the numbers show it. The CVRs don't lie.
Okay, well, we put that to Brian Smith. Let's see what he has to say.
I think he might have had it on both knees, or certainly had heavy strapping on one knee. And so he could well be, you know, unable to do all the things that he'd like to have done in pre-season training or, in week-to-week training. And as I understand it, I'm told that he's been a phenomenal practicer. He does all that stuff over and over and over again, under pressure, at pace, and all that sort of stuff in training, and that's why it comes out in the game for him. So if he's not been able to do that, that might be why he is making a few mistakes. He's dropped the ball 2 or 3 times at critical points. They're all critical when you're at fullback. If you drop the ball, I guess. But I wouldn't bet against him being, back and slashing like he's been for all those years.
Yeah, now, very interesting there from Brian. I do tend to think that we may see Slater come good in the next few weeks, but don't get too excited yet, New South Wales fans, over Slater's loss of form, because big Greg Inglis, he's going the other way. He's up there with Jared Hayne. Now, interesting story in Rugby League Week this week. South Insiders revealed that knee injury that he was carrying last year was much worse than everyone knew about. They kept it all in-house, so he was hardly a passenger. He probably wasn't as dominant towards the back end of the year. He was hardly a passenger though, so they reckon this year, free of all the injuries, he's on 2 legs rather than 1. Good news for anyone who's going to be playing against him.
Probably the scariest guy to come up against to be an opposing team, mate. He is just a natural freak. I'd love to mould the 3 of the players we've been talking about all together. Imagine the raw strength of Greg Inglis, the anticipation and the explosiveness of Billy Slater and the natural gifted talent of Jared Hayne moulded into one. You'd have some sort of a Superman. But
almost in Eric Growth Jr.
Almost, not quite, but would be bordering on getting pretty close, mate. I think Greg Inglis is probably the best player in the comp at the moment.
Yeah, look, he's been named Rugby League Week's best player in the world for the past 2 years.
It's not a bad tag, that.
It's not a bad rap, but look, you can't argue with it.
Let's see what Greg's got to say, boys. We caught up with him this week ahead of a huge game against the Doggies.
I'm quite happy with myself, to be honest, but keeping it consistent week to week is the biggest key.
Is it hard trying to unshackle yourself as an attacking fullback in wet conditions like you're experiencing?
Yeah, I think just the whole game had to change. Our whole game plan had to change with the wet conditions and the conditions that you're playing. So it's everyone's dream to be running the ball, but you can't just have that in the wet conditions.
Yeah, big game for the Rabbitohs this afternoon. They're taking on the Dogs out there at ANZ. Leno, who do you like?
Look, I have to say the Rabbitohs, mate, unbelievable defence last week. 5 tackles missed in the game. Incredible. That's all about attitude. That'll win them the game.
Easter bunnies, rabbits.
Whoever he takes, I don't, so I'm on the Bulldogs. That time of the week again, Eric's Encouragement Award.
This week, this goes to the referees and the timekeepers for the Melbourne Dragons game. I'm going to send you a watch. It's been stuck on 2:45 a.m. for the last 4 months, and it still works better than the time piece that you guys use for that game. Pick your game up.
I want a bit of the action this week, boys, as well on this award. I'm going to donate a watch to the boys that were keeping the time at Leichhardt, Tigers Manly. Jamie Lyon was about 2 minutes after half-time. He got across. There's another gift.
You want to add your 2 cents?
Look, I'm going to go and grab a sundial, and I still think that'd probably work a little bit better.
Boys, absolute joke.
There you go. Not very encouraging this week, the Encouragement Award, but there it is. Okay, time for the Moles tip-off of the week. I promised it to you earlier, boys. Now, he tells me that all is not well among the referees. Apparently, a few of them aren't too happy with Tony Archer. They believe he's playing favourites, and there could be a mutiny on the cards.
Well, that'll be an interesting one if nobody wants to referee the games. So I think the fans might be happy with that with some of the decisions. There's been some poor ones lately. I think Matt Checken, for me, should have lost his gig, not been rewarded with the Eels-Tigers game. So, look, they're going to have to pick up their game a bit, I think.
Oh, you're not allowed to say too much, or otherwise you get a fine. They're so very precious. Sorry, boys. Love you guys.
All right, before we get Eric fined, that'll do us for this week for Friday Arvo Footy. Thank you, Leno. Mitch. Thank you, Eric. Don't eat too many eggs this weekend, boys. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the footy this week. We'll be back next week.